Well, figure since we're in the middle of summer, and of course we have the trade deadline, which is kind of like, I guess Christmas when you're getting new toys there. I figured it was appropriate to break out the Sal Soul Christmas album here. So a little disco, a little holiday music there for the trade deadline. So I haven't looked at this thing for a while. So it's pretty good condition actually, but maybe just a little bit dusty. Welcome to Section 420, Talkin Yankees. Well, the trade deadline has come and gone. This is a special episode. We'll focus on the moves the Yankees made because we all know about Jazz Chisholm Jr. come to the Yankees a little bit earlier there, but the Yankees also making some moves in the bullpen and as well as some roster moves as well. So we'll kind of get caught up on all of it in case you missed anything, as well as go around baseball, a couple of moves around baseball. Of course, you want to look at your AL East rivals, what they're up to. And miraculously, just around the same time that Jazz joined the Yankees, the offense came to life. The bats broke out in Boston. Probably the Saturday night game would probably go down. It's probably the best win so far this season. We'll kind of, even though it's a little bit of old news, but there was so many great moments in that game. It's worth revisiting and perhaps change the trajectory of the way this Yankee team, which has been miserable to watch over the last 2 months there. So we'll get focused on that, as well as Gleyber Torres. 1 second he gives you an excuse to love him, then an excuse to hate him. I thought maybe they should try to move him out of here. It turns out looks like he's going to probably be here to stay. But again, kind of gives you reasons to hate him and love him at the same time. But we'll focus on Gleyber Torres. He has been picking up with the offense a little bit, so you can't hurt him there. But there's other things that irks you a little bit again. So we'll sprinkle a little Gleyber Torres in there for you. So a lot going for you for this episode, but this is going to be maybe a trade deadline focused episode there. So when we go over the moves, this is an instant reaction there. So you want to catch this all. But don't forget, before we get started, if you haven't done it already, or maybe right after this episode, but don't forget to do it, make sure you subscribe to the audio podcast version of the show. So wherever you get your favorite podcast, look for Section 420 Talkin Yankees, the podcast. Now, this is a rare time. Usually you get the updates. It might take sooner if you have the audio podcast, but here on the YouTube show, or if you're watching on TV, you might get it. You're getting it first before you get the audio podcast, but usually it doesn't happen. So you make sure you're a podcast subscriber. And of course, if you're watching, happen to be watching on YouTube, make sure you subscribe if you haven't done it already. And TV, you got a lot of work to do. You got to do both. You got to do the YouTube subscribing there, and then again, make sure you get the audio podcast. Get them both. Now, for the past few weeks, and if you've been watching the past few episodes, or if you've been listening to the audio podcast, you've been hearing me preaching that Cashman, what he's going to do, definitely going to make some bullpen moves. We even from the offseason up to now, he's been kind of a bit of a merry-go-round bringing guys in. But a lot of these moves kind of been like, unsubscript moves, getting guys off the waiver wires, minor league invites and then promoting them to the major leagues. And finding pieces like a Mike Tonkin, for example, has turned out so far okay for the Yankees and kind of resurrecting someone like Tim Hill. But you figure the Yankees are going to bring in some serious bullpen arms in here. So that's definitely one area I figured that Cashman was going to improve in. And then secondly, of course, as I've been doing most part of this season, has been bashing DJ LeMahieu since the party's been back there. Figure the Yankees got to make a move for third base to get a third base as well. They didn't exactly get a third baseman, but bringing in Jazz, could be a solution. And Boone did mention that they're going to at least try to work him out there at third base. So perhaps, in the future, he might be that third base solution. But again, you thought they would bring like kind of a marquee third baseman in there ready. That didn't exactly happen, but in a way, it kind of did. So that's what we figured: bullpen and third base, and that's kind of what Cashman did. And I think overall, now if you look at some of the bullpen arms, and we'll get into that a little bit later. There are these marquee names, or are these expected names? Not really, but I think there are two good solutions. Two guys they brought in here just to help bolster the bullpen, which it's been all right so far. I know Holmes had the blown save, and Luke Weaver kind of was a little sloppy in the Saturday, the game before the Saturday game in Boston there, so we'll kind of get a little bit. But of course, they definitely needed some arms in that bullpen. Again, they're not some marquee names, but decent options. And again, we'll kind of get into the numbers. But of course, the highlight of the trade deadline for the New York Yankees is Jazz Chisholm Jr. Now, you did hear his name being sprinkled around a couple weeks ago, and it's sort of like, he wouldn't mind playing for the Yankees, and of course he idolized Jeter and all that stuff. And of course, when Jeter was in the front office of the Marlins, that's when he was through the system there, so he kind of had that little bit of a love fest there with going on there. So of course, he would love to come to the Yankees and play in pinstripes. Again, I didn't even mention him in any previous episodes because there's kind of rumor there, but it looks like, and this wasn't a trade deadline move, it was like a couple days before the trade deadline, but I guess this was going to be the big move the Yankees we're going to bring in, and so they got Jazz, and I think it was really good timing for the Yankees. Just obviously it was just before the big Saturday night win in Boston, but you can see the way this team is playing. I mean, just before the All-Star break, after the All-Star break, I mean, they were really struggling. Just the body language is bad. Everything was bad. And you bring a guy like Jazz, who's just kind of upbeat. He has a big personality. Now, they said, maybe he rubbed people the wrong way in Florida with that. He's like too much of that. Sometimes you don't want guys too energetic. But this Yankee team definitely needed the energy. So I think it was a good move by Cashman. Good raw talent. And he's versatile. He came up as a shortstop, through the Miami system. But of course, they converted him to an outfielder, center fielder, so he could play the outfield. And of course, just before the trade deadline, the Marlins had him play second base a little bit. Probably could maybe showcase him to the Yankees or other teams that were maybe looking for a second baseman there. So he's versatile. So it looks like he could play. He had multiple positions there, so he's flexible. He's fast, and we'll just go over his numbers here as well. He has some pop. So coming in to the Yankees, he was hitting 249, which, well, it's not the greatest there. But if you look at the rest of the Yankee hitters, I mean, they're not really more or less any worse or any better there. But with 14 home runs, now he did get his first home run as a Yankee in the first game of the Phillies series, so he kind of got that out of the way there. So he's got some pop to the bat, and I mentioned before, he's got some speed, 22 stolen bases coming in, but of course then he swiped the bag in his first game at the Yankees. That was the Sunday game at Fenway there, so he's got speed, he's got power, and he had 52 RBIs coming in there, so it's not this guy that getting all his RBIs from the home runs. Again, he's spraying the ball around there. Again, it's good for the Yankees, and you could bat him leadoff there with the speed, or if you want to look at him, depending on what type of pitcher you're facing there, you could bat him a little low in the lineup, maybe like 5th to 6th there, and have him drive the ball there. And as I mentioned before, just just brings a new edge to these Yankees there, to team right now. This kind of before that kind of seemed they were sluggish, kind of a bit of a lumbering team there. And again, in terms of stolen bases, again, the Yankees have kind of been void of that, and we kind of got into that a couple episodes ago. The Yankees haven't been swiping as many bags lately there, so this guy just brings in all those pieces there. And if you want to say about the attitude, we don't know the guy. Look, he seems like a young, playful guy. But they said about Stroman, Stroman's too energetic on the field and all that stuff. Overall, you say Stroman's been a good Yankee citizen so far. I know he had that little blow up when he kind of called out Gleyber in the Toronto series for not turning the double play, not being able to turn the double play. But other than that, Stroman's that. And they say the same thing about Verdugo. Again, maybe not a good team player and late to a few games or a few meetings, stuff like that. But again, Verdugo, Stroman is fine. And so I had no concern about Jazz. Now, in terms of where does he actually fit with this team, I figured this was a clear shot at Gleyber Torres. Now, to be fair with Gleyber Torres, a couple weeks, up to this point there, he had been hitting better, but before that had been pretty miserable for the Yankees. Only had like 8 or 9 home runs, which he should be, been doing way better than that. Batting average was like 220, 230 there, and we saw a bunch of problems there. Fielding blunders. Remember the game at Citi Field there? I guess it was that first game there where they were playing the infield in. There should have been a ground ball right to him, even though playing the infield, he should be able to glove. Ball got past him, allowed to run the score. And then later in that game, when the Yankees are coming back a little bit, it's a infield ground ball, and it's kind of this walking to first base, jogging there, not hustling at all, and it was called out there. Now, it turns out maybe he was dealing with a groin injury, okay, but we've seen issues before with Gleyber not hustling. You remember that, a couple of seasons ago when that happened, Judge actually confronted him in the dugout there. So, this Jazz move may have been a shot by Gleyber Torres, but if that's the case, you'd figure at the same time Gleyber Torres would be moved out, but it looks like the Yankees are going to hold on to him. We don't know if the Yankees were shopping around, possibly there, so they're going to have to find a way to make this all work, and it seems like the way they're going to make this work, as I mentioned, Boone's going to say they're at least going to give it, at least try the concept of Jazz at third base for the Yankees when they can just keep Torres there at second base, so that's where he all fits in. So, if you want to look at if you thought you want to bring a bigger name in here, maybe this wasn't good enough. I just think it was a good move by Cashman. All he had to give up was 3 prospects there. One of them, Augustin Ramirez, who he was doing well in Double A. He was hitting like 290, but when they promoted to Triple A, his batting average dropped to like 220 there. So I guess maybe they soured on him and they tossed in 2 other prospects. So just to throw in 3 prospects to get this guy, I think it's a good deal for the Yankees. And he's only 26 years old. And what about about all the moves that Cashman made? All these guys are under control for a while, so Jazz isn't a free agent until 2027. So he'll be arbitration eligible next year, the year after, and then he hits free agency after 26. So essentially, you got the guy for almost like 2.5 years there. So that's a pretty good deal for the Yankees. And again, he's only 26 years old. So again, this is a plus move for Cashman. And as for Augustin Ramirez, I think the Yankees are good at the catching position right now. You see Austin Wells really turn it on a little bit. Of course, you have Trevino here, who'll be obviously will be back soon enough there. But you see Wells really turning on with the bat there. So he's probably the Yankees the future of the for the Yankees behind the plate there is Austin Wells there. So again, I don't think Ramirez is really essential for the Yankees. So good deal by Cashman. Am I getting him an A? Maybe he deserved maybe an A- on that one. And now the other moves that Cashman made were mainly with the bullpen, which you figured was going to bring some guys in here. Now, the name might be a little bit familiar with you. It's Mark Leiter Jr. Of course, wait, Leiter, well, now he'll be the official third Leiter to pitch for the Yankee organization. Of course, we all know Al Leiter is probably the more infamous, but for a brief while, you had Mark Leiter, his father, also a pitcher for the Yankees there. So now Mark Leiter Jr. will now be the third Leiter to join the Yankee organization. So they made a trade with the Cubs, sending out 2 prospects, and that would be Jack Neely and Ben Carlisle. Now, if you're not familiar with Leiter Jr. there, so basically he's right. His out pitch is known as the splitter. So he's not one of these guys that comes in and throws 100 miles per hour there, but his out pitch is the splitter there, and it's quite devastating now. So not only does it make him effective against righties because he naturally is a righty, but also he's able to get lefties out, and this is kind of the reason why they like him. He can face both righties and lefties, similar with Tommy Kahnle. With his breaking ball and his changeup there, sometimes he's more devastating against lefties than even his righties there. But getting back to Mark Leiter Jr. there, again, this is lifetime. His career has held lefties to a .213 batting average there. Again, so his splitter there is devastating against lefties, and the Yankees are getting him just at the right time. Now, he was on the IL for a while, but since coming off the IL on July 9th, he, at least up to the point, retired all 23 batters he faced since coming off the IL. So the Yankees are getting him while he's hot. He's kind of one of these guys. He's a swing and miss pitcher. Doesn't walk a lot of guys. So that's what you got when somebody coming out of the bullpen there. You don't want guys giving up walks, and you don't want guys giving up hit there. So again, this seems like the guy. Maybe not the name that's at the top of your head there, but nevertheless, obviously definitely an improvement. It's definitely a quality arm that they're bringing in here. Now he's 33 years old. He kind of a late blooming to his career there, but as I mentioned before, he's not a free agent until 2027, so the Yankees essentially have him under contract, under control for almost 2.5 years. I mean, we'll see how far they go with Leiter, but nevertheless, again, this is a guy they can hold on to if they want to, again, stick with him next year and the year after there. Now, his numbers, again, ain't amazing, but again, it's with the Cubs so far this season, 39 appearances. He's a 2-4 record. ERA kind of high there at 4.21, but as I mentioned before, since coming off the IL July 9th, has, again, gotten out all 23 batters he's faced. So they're getting a hot arm, so to speak. And joining Mark Leiter Jr. in the bullpen will be Emil De Los Santos. Now, this is a multiplayer deal. Now, Santos coming from the Padres, as well as Tom Balboni Jr., a pitching prospect, and the Yankees sending out Brandon Lockridge, an outfielder prospect there. So, again, the Yankees not giving much, pretty much in both these deals there. But we'll look at De Los Santos. Now, Tim might think he's almost a bit of a pet project, a la Clay Holmes, which I'll explain in a moment there. But I'll just give you his numbers right now in 2024 with the Padres. A 1-2 record, similar to Leiter. I mean, Leiter was 2-4, but with relievers, you don't really look at the win-loss record too much there because, again, it's all about the situation they're being put into the game there, so some of that's really out of their control. But nevertheless, ERA of 4.46, so not really great there with the ERA. Similar to Leiter, he also had an ERA into the 4s there, so you're not really impressed with that overall. But if you want to look at the strikeout numbers, 48 strikeouts in 40.1 innings pitched. So this guy's averaging more strikeout per inning. So again, that's probably why at least you would have interest in him. And I think the Yankees are kind of looking at him with some of the Clay Holmes a couple of seasons ago. They probably see something in him in his arm. It's like, well, if we could just bring him in here and coach him up, maybe get him to throw a sinker a little bit more, or get him to throw a slider a little bit more. Maybe we could transform him into a pitcher. That's kind of what happened with Clay Holmes, and they kind of viewed him on Pittsburgh, but they figured he's not being used properly. Brought him in here, and he was able, at least to this point right now, he's a Yankee closer, and again, with his dominating stuff there. So they might see De Los Santos in the same ways. If we can just get him in here and get him to throw some breaking stuff more and get more swing and misses here, maybe we could turn him to a more lethal weapon. And as I mentioned before, similar to Leiter, he's under control through 2026. So this is someone, again, if he does well here for the Yankees, at least you've got him under control for a couple more seasons there. It's not just kind of a 2-month rental there. So, and that's why, again, the deal with Leiter is also a good move. Again, you have both these guys under control. And again, not only you're getting Leiter and De Los Santos, but the Yankees also getting a couple of arms coming back from the IL there, mainly Ian Hamilton, who's dealing with the oblique issue. And of course, Scott Efros coming back. Initially they had to shut him down a couple seasons ago with Tommy John. Then he had the mysterious back surgery over the winter, but it looks like he's working his way there, as well as Nick Birdie. So it looks like the Yankee bullpen was kind of finished a few weeks ago. Again, they keep it all together with scotch tape and band-aids, but now really starting to get stacked there. And, so it's not really the big name you thought they would bring in here. Of course, you heard some whispers that the Yankees might reunite with Chad Green, of course, right now pitching with the Toronto Blue Jays and doing quite well. That's someone like you may want to come in here because, again, he was really good with the Yankees, especially in the postseason. But, of course, the ending with the Yankees wasn't that well. Obviously, he had the Tommy John surgery. You had to shut him down, and then he was just gone before you know it. And you can't have a player who just had surgery. You'd want to re-sign him because you don't know if he's going to come back healthy or not. So, the Yankees kind of had to let him walk in that way, but it would be nice to have him come in here. Would Chad Green, been better than Leiter or De Los Santos? Probably, but all things considered, and the fact the Yankees aren't giving up much here, I think this is a solid B to B minus move by Cashman there. Again, not the big impressive name you would wanted, but overall, these are two solid moves, two swing and miss guys that come here with swing and miss stuff there, and again, didn't have to give too much to get them. And of course, you got all these new names and faces coming in. That means you got to make room to send some guys out. And of course, probably sarcastically, the best move Cashman can make is getting rid of Caleb Ferguson, the lefty reliever there. Now, he's actually, I can just think of like 3 games off the top of my head that he's cost the Yankees. Of course, there was a game early in the season, 1-1 against Toronto. He comes out in the 7th inning, gives a go-ahead home run. And of course, there was a good Sunday game in Cleveland. Great game with the Yankees, took a lead in extra innings. He comes in and gives up 3 runs and blows that game. And then it was called the other game against the Reds there. The Yankees were only losing 2-0. He comes in and serves up a 3-run home run there. So kind of a frustrating player. So just to get rid of him is great news. So again, of course, you like all these new names, Jazz and the 2 De Los Santos and Leiter like that. But just to get rid of Ferguson, I think that's just excellent news for the Yankees. Good riddance for him there. And let's look at his numbers here. He was pitching up to a 5.13 ERA. His record was 1-3. I don't know why they hung on this guy as long as they did. Now, it seemed like it was maybe a competition between him and Victor Gonzalez, and I guess, Gonzalez, they got rid of him a little bit sooner, though, but I thought Ferguson should have been out the door at the same time or even sooner. I would have been okay sticking with Victor there. Just again, of the 2 of them, Ferguson just gave up some more devastating home runs coming out of the bullpen there. So, now I'll give him a little bit credit. I guess it's his strikeout ability, which has kept him in pinstripes as long as he did. Now, he had 41 strikeouts in 33 and 1/3 innings, so that's kind of impressive, but you look at the ERA of 5.13 there, and again, and crucial times he would come out and just serve up some big home runs at the wrong time there. And again, it's off the top of my head, I could think of 3 losses attributed to him, and if you give me a little bit more time and you want to look through the box scores, I'm sure you can find a handful of more there. So the Yankees win games by just getting rid of Ferguson. So they ship him out to the Astros there, so going down to Houston, and the Yankees get back Kelly Austin as well as international pool money. But again, you didn't have to get anything back just to get rid of the guy. I think it's a plus for the Yankee bullpen. Again, it's so many big games and just so many times it's just been frustrating this season. Now, you know what's going to happen. You know this is going to happen, ironically. Now, if you know Houston, they've got off to a terrible start this season, but they've worked their way up, at least at this point right now. They're in the head in the AL West. So you know what's going to happen. The Yankees and Houston will face each other this postseason. There's going to be a big moment, and who's going to come out of the bullpen? Caleb Ferguson to strike out Juan Soto. That's going to happen. You know it's going to happen. But for the near term, good move for the Yankees just to get rid of Ferguson. So those are the moves in Yankee land. Again, not a ton of moves, but again, I think it's a solid trade deadline for Brian Cashman. If you want to take, the B minus I gave him with the relievers he bought in, as well as the A minus with bringing in Jazz there. You want to combine a little bit. I think a solid B plus to A for Cashman on this one. Again, no big moves, no big names. But if you look around all of baseball, there were a lot of moves, but no big names really moved around there. Of course, you heard Blake Snell's being tossed out there as a possibility there, but you didn't really see any big names there, so it was kind of quiet around baseball. I guess where you want to look at maybe some of the highlights will be Jack Flaherty, who the Yankees were looking at for a starter, but he ended up going to the Dodgers. Now, if the Yankees landed him, that would be, I guess we give Cashman an A plus there, but I guess, whatever, the Dodgers maybe had a better offer, or maybe the Yankees weren't interested in him, we don't know that. And of course, the other move is actually good news for the Yankees. That's Randy Arozarena being shipped out to the Seattle Mariners there, which is just great news for the Yankees because obviously he kills the Yankees, especially kills Garrett Cole. So I'm sure Garrett Cole is happy to get him out of the AL East. You'll have to still face him when you face the Seattle, fine, but that's not as much as when you have to face him multiple times season being there in the AL East there. So, and look at Tampa they're pretty much selling off. They're getting rid of their pieces. I mean, they're about a 500 team. There's no way they're going to catch the Yankees or the Orioles, so they're selling off, which they normally do. We've seen this with them time and time again. They sell off the pieces, they stock up the farm system, and then, they just keep it going. The next thing you know, there'll be a 95 to 100 win team before you know it there. That's just kind of the way they roll. And you also heard some rumors in terms of the Yankees shipping guys out. Possibly Nestor Cortez could have been available. Maybe they were shopping around a little bit, which I can kind of understand a little bit. Obviously, come back this season from the injury from last year. Kind of been, up and down a little bit there. Obviously, look at his win-loss record wasn't that great. Did not pitch well. Obviously they opened the first game in that Boston series there, but he's also had a couple of hard luck losses where he's pitched well, but he's got no help from no run support from the offense there. But it's been kind of a weird season for Nestor a little bit. Obviously, you've seen him digressing a little bit there. So I don't know if he's in the long-term Yankee plans. You don't get much length out of him lately. I mean, it seems like he can barely go 5 innings anymore. So if the Yankees were kind of floating him out there to see if they could get back, or if they kind of made the move to bring Flaherty in here, then just want to make room in the starting 5 to ship him out. But yeah, again, Nestor looks like Nestor may not be destined for the Yankee future in the near term, for the long term. But again, overall, around baseball, you said it was kind of quiet. You didn't see the big mega trade going around there. But again, interesting. Well, now it's not even after the trade deadline has passed, maybe you're kind of new to the game there, you still have the waiver wire, so you can still see moves being made. The only difference now is that you can put someone on the waiver wire, and if other 29 teams don't pick the guy up or don't claim the person, then you can get that player. So the Yankees still could get players, even though the trade deadline is passed. But again, at the point in terms of just making a straight-up trade without the waiver wire, that's all come and gone there. And for baseball, this makes baseball unique more than other sports. I think the trade deadline with baseball is just more exciting than anywhere else. I mean, you don't see big moves really being made in like football. Usually in football, there's someone cuts their quarterback or cuts their running back, and then you pick them up. That's usually done in the off season. You do have trades within the basketball season, but usually you don't have big names move around. A lot of that is just getting done more in the off season. Baseball is the only sport where really you see moves within the season, within the trade deadline there. So kind of makes it unique from the other sports there. And as well as I know what they're trying to do now with the clocks now, the pitch clock, the hit clock, and all these clocks there. But baseball is, again, what makes baseball unique from other sports there is that everything stands still for a while, and kind of the trade deadline stands still the whole day. Kind of your eyes are peeled looking for moves there. So again, this wasn't really the most exciting trade deadline for baseball and for the Yankees, but for the Yankees, I think Cashman did well here, much better than last season. Remember, just had like 2 bullpen reliever guys and did like nothing, and pretty much just threw the season away, threw the towel in on the season. So at least Cashman with Jazz and these moves, obviously improving the team, and of course we all know they're going for it because again they're just a game out of first place right now there. So I don't know if there was a mega move to be made there. The Blake Snell one could have been interesting, just because again he signed that 2-year deal though, but he could opt out after every year. So essentially, you could almost be renting him for half a season. But Snell, again, was hurt early on there. Again, I don't think the Yankees were big believers in him in any way. So even if he was available, and who knows what the Giants were going to ask for him there. So, again, I'm happy letting that one slide by. I think the Yankee starting rotation is okay. I mean, you can always bring in an arm there. Of course, why not there? But again, the Yankee offense was the bigger deal there. So the fact you're getting Jazz, and it's the fact that the players are already there starting to come to life again. Again, all good news for the Yankees. And it seems at least Gleyber Torres will be here for the remainder, at least, of this season. You figure maybe he might be involved in the move there. Again, I've been beating up on him lately. Of course, beating up big on DJ, but of course, as well as Gleyber Torres. But, as I mentioned, the past couple of weeks, he has picked it up here. And again, since his name wasn't involved in any trades or he wasn't moved out, again, it looks like he'll at least be here for the remainder of the season. But again, it's this kind of way you're going to manage, both Jazz and Gleyber Torres. Again, the logical move then, I guess, would put Jazz at third base and keep Gleyber at second. Now, Jack Curry on the Yes Network kind of floated out the idea, what if you put Gleyber Torres at third base and have Jazz play second base there? But apparently they went to Gleyber and asked him this. Now, I don't know if this is sort of like a lost in translation thing, but he pretty much said, no, I'm a second baseman, which is not really what you want to hear. I mean, you want to be kind of a team player. How many times do you hear someone, hey, whatever the team needs, I'll do. Whatever the team needs, I'll do. I mean, Aaron Judge, of course, an issue, a right fielder for the Yankees, but of course, once Aaron Hicks kind of fizzled out there and they weren't sure what to do, he ends up taking a second base. I mean, you want to have the mentality of whatever I have to do to help make this team win, I want to do. You don't want to hear, no, I'm just staying on my position, that's it. So, not really great the verbiage-wise. Now, again, I don't know if it's a loss in translation sort of thing, so I don't want to beat on too bad. But again, not really the right type of attitude you want to have. Now, to defend Gleyber a little bit, maybe he's just so focused on second base, he doesn't want to move around. Maybe figure it might get into his head and hurt him. We could go rewind the tape a little bit, Gleyber initially through the Cubs system, he was a shortstop when he came to the Yankees. Of course, they had Didi Gregorius at shortstop, so they made Gleyber Torres a second baseman. And when you had that combination of Didi and Gleyber there, that's when Gleyber Torres was at his best. His first 2 full seasons with the Yankees, all-star both years. And then, of course, they let Didi walk after the 2019 season. They moved Gleyber back to shortstop, and it's gotten to his head. He was terrible, not only in the field, making errors, but also he brought that to the plate there. You saw his offensive numbers completely drop in 2020, as well in 2021 there. So it seemed like the position move got into his head there. So if it's a situation where moving him from second to third is going to get into his head and it's just going to freak him out, he's not going to be a good, just fall off the map there with his numbers, then fine, leave him at second if that's the situation there. But not really what you want to hear there. But if again, I just rather have him be in the right mind. So if he wants to stay at second base, okay. Now physically, do we know he could man the position? I don't know. I mean, obviously third base, you need a stronger arm. It's different angles the ball's coming at you compared to second base. But if he kind of has a lot of experience as well as shortstop, you should be able to handle third base as well. But again, if it's a head thing with him and if he wants to stay at second base, fine. It looks like Jazz, again, with his outgoing personality, he'll more be happy to take the job there if that's ultimately what the Yankees decide to do. But look at Gleyber there. Again, that's the bad of Gleyber, but we want to look at the good of Gleyber. Lately, been hitting well. Now, up to this point, the last 7 games, 300. Hitting 300, 9 hits, 2 home runs, 6 RBIs, and if you want to go back even 2 weeks worth of baseball, so the last 15 games up to this point, hitting 316, again with those same 2 home runs, but 18 hits and 8 RBIs, so he's definitely picked it up at the bat there. His batting average is still around like the high 230s to 240, but compared to where he was a couple weeks ago, that's actually good there. So Gleyber Torres picking up at the bat. Hopefully, I guess I don't know if the Yankees floated his name out there, maybe try to make a move. Again, he's on the final year of his contract. There's not a ton. I mean, if you look at all the second basemen in the league there, you look at Gleyber Torres' numbers there, he's middle of the pack there, so not great, not terrible. So I guess maybe the Yankees just figure, all right, he's hitting a little better now, let's just hold on to him or ride him out for the rest of the season. Again, I don't think he's going to be in the long-term Yankees plans there. He says he wants to be a Yankee for the rest of his career there, but then when you say that, but also don't want to be a team player by trying out third base there, kind of sending mixed messages for Gleyber Torres. But nevertheless, looks like, if you don't like Gleyber, at least you got to put up with him for a couple more months. And of course, we got to rewind a little bit, look at the most recent Boston series here, which I think really changed the trajectory of the team there. Now, look, they could be terrible in the weeks after that. We don't know about that, but with the Yankees where they were at a real low point. Again, the first game they lose, and this is after the horrible, embarrassing loss to the Mets there. Lose that first game in heartbreaking fashion. We have a 3-run lead, and then comes that Saturday night game, which is probably the best win up to this point for the Yankees season, mainly because they got in the 9th inning, they're down by a run. Get to Kensley Jansen, get to their closer. How many times have we seen Boston get to Holmes? Now, finally, Yankees able to get the Jansen there. Big hit by Trent Grisham there to tie the game in the 9th. And then, of course, extra innings. Gleyber Torres, who usually disappears late in the game, usually doesn't come through in big clutch situations, hits a big, huge 2-run double there to pad up the lead. And the Yankees come away with the 11-8 win. But overall for the weekend, the big point was the offense finally came to life. Scored 7 runs the Friday night game, even though they lost. 11 runs in the second game, and 8 runs in the final game there. The bats breaking out. And, of course, when they go to Philly, the first game there, dropping a 14 spot there. So looks like the offense is finally coming to life there. But of course, you look at the Saturday game, though, this is such a big moment for the Yankees because after the heartbreaking Friday night loss, for them to lose that game on Saturday as well there, I don't know if the Yankees could have crawled out of that hole. Yes, they were only still a game or 2 out of the AL East there, but a huge moment for the Yankees, a huge win there, and again, a huge clutch hit by Gleyber Torres that, if we look back where this team ends up there, you might look back at that particular weekend that pretty much might have saved the Yankee season. So that's the episode. Hope you liked the episode. I think the trade deadline was also good for the New York Yankees because Jazz is going to be probably the new flashy thing. We'll see what the fans, the bleacher creatures come up with, with the roll call and all that stuff. And of course, the Yankees getting some pieces back, mainly Giancarlo Stanton, as well as Jason Dominguez should be able to join this team as well. So looks like they're stacked and racked, ready to go, and hopefully now can make a push for the postseason.